All right, today we're going to tackle the idea of faith, but probably not in the way you're thinking. We're actually going to uncover this incredible blueprint for belief, and it's all hidden inside one single super high-stakes speech. So let's dive in. So I want you to picture this. You're in the court of an absolute ruler, a pharaoh. A messenger has just shown up and delivered a truth that threatens the entire power structure. And naturally, the ruler wants him executed. You could cut the tension with a knife. Now here's the question. How do you stand up for what's right in a situation like that? How do you defend the truth in a way that doesn't get you killed but also doesn't compromise what you believe in? How do you use reason when everyone else is just screaming for rage? Well, believe it or not, the Quran tells a story about one man in Pharaoh's own inner circle who does exactly that. He's a believer, but nobody knows it, and his short, absolutely brilliant speech gives us a masterclass in what faith really is. Let's break it down. So, the very first thing he does is establish what faith is fundamentally all about. And here's a spoiler. It's got nothing to do with picking a team or joining a club. It's about reality. See, this believer could have easily said something like, hey, this messenger is one of us, or our people have always believed this. That's the language of tribalism, of group loyalty. But he doesn't do that. Instead, he completely reframes the debate away from group identity and toward a simple, profound claim about what is real. His move is so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. He just boils the entire massive conflict down to this one single statement. And just like that, it's not about us versus them anymore. It's about whether or not this one claim is true. He forces everyone in that room to actually confront the message itself. And this right here reveals the first pillar of faith in our blueprint. It's an allegiance to truth. It's this personal recognition of reality that stands completely independent of social pressure or what's politically convenient. It's a foundation built on real conviction, not just conformity. Okay, so if faith is about truth, how does it actually work? Well, the believer's next move is just brilliant. He doesn't meet all that anger with more anger. Nope. He meets it with cold, hard logic. He points directly to evidence. He says, look, this messenger isn't just making stuff up. He's brought bayanet, or clear proofs. This totally shifts the ground again. The conversation is now about evidence and reason, not just raw emotion and fear. And, this perfectly illustrates a core idea from the source. A lot of the time, people don't reject a message because they can't understand it. They reject it because they're terrified of what will happen if they accept it, what it will do to their power, their status, their whole way of life. Then he does something really remarkable. He just completely de-escalates the whole situation. He basically says, look, if this guy's a liar, let God deal with it. His lie is his own problem. This just pulls the rug out from under any justification for violence. What he's implying is truth doesn't need to be protected by force. And this all builds into this really powerful argument. It's almost like a logical wager. He asks them to just think through the possibilities, even if they're not 100% certain. He says, think about it. If the messenger is lying and you just ignore him, you lose nothing. But what if he's telling the truth and you kill him? Well, the consequences are catastrophic for you. So ultimately, this reframes faith not as some kind of blind leap in the dark, but as the most rational, intellectually responsible position you can take. It's a kind of cautious wisdom that weighs the risks and understands that, hey, some possibilities are just too dangerous to ignore. So we've got faith as truth and reason. But the final piece of this whole puzzle is about what's happening on the inside, long before anyone else ever sees it. This little phrase right here is the key to the entire story. This man was a believer the whole time, but he operated strategically in silence. His faith was completely real, even when it was totally invisible to everyone else. And this teaches us something huge, that faith can have phases. It might start as just an internal alignment with what you know to be true. Then it might require you to be strategically silent when you're under threat. It's a process of growth that happens way before any big public declaration. Faith doesn't have to be loud to be strong. And you can see this inner integrity in the way he speaks. He's calm, he's logical, he's not pointing fingers at anyone. He's not trying to conquer his opponents. He's trying to invite them to think. And this models a really profound idea. Real strength, real truth, doesn't need to shout. So, what does this all add up to? Well,
The believer's speech ends with one final, powerful point that ties everything we've talked about together.
This is his final diagnosis of the problem in that room. He suggests that the inability to see the truth isn't really an intellectual problem, it's a moral one. In other words, if a person is fundamentally dishonest with themselves, or if they constantly transgress against other people, they actually create a barrier. They literally block their own ability to recognize truth when it's right in front of them. So moral integrity, then, is actually a prerequisite for guidance. So when you put it all together, the anatomy of faith that's revealed here is just incredibly robust. It's a commitment to reality over your tribe. It's a dedication to honest thinking. It's a refusal of coercion and violence. It's a private moral conviction that comes before any public identity. And it's a type of courage that relies on logic, not on brute force. And that's, right there, is the ultimate takeaway. This isn't about having the loudest, most visible declaration of faith. It's about cultivating a clear-sighted, intellectually honest, and morally accountable way of seeing the world. And that is a model of belief that's definitely worth thinking about.